Today, Higher Life interviews Stan Moody, author of Finding Our Way Home, Reclaiming the Kingdom in Post-Evangelical America. We hope you enjoy this conversation. And this interview is about just learning the heart behind this book and hearing Stan's passion for it. And maybe today you can get some insight into really Stan's heart behind this and what he feels is important to be sharing with you. So Stan, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for inviting me, Tim.
So Stan, tell us a little bit about this book.
Well, this is my third version. I've written a number of books, and this is my third iteration of this same theme that I've been writing since the 80s. That doesn't mean that I just began thinking about it in the 80s. I actually had a lifetime, I could say maybe a war with the right-wing evangelical or just in the evangelical church. And it has been, a lot of things didn't make sense. And we've gone through a lot of movements over the past, I'm getting up there. So I've been involved in it somewhere around 80 years now. And we've been through a lot of cultural movements that have not been beneficial to the life of the church. And somewhere along the way, they forgot the gospel and began thinking about the American dream idea that the larger the audience and the more money, the more blessed you were by the Lord. So we're in a position where we have lost our way. And in the worship of the American dream of success, and we've gotten to the point where I'm afraid that we've got to reboot and start over.
So what's your motivation for you said this is the third iteration of the book and going through this, what has motivated you to continue this message? What even recently have you seen that is something that caused you to say, okay, we need to get this message out there?
Well, I have an interesting background. I started off as an electrical engineer and attended law school after that, and ran my own businesses for a long time. So I tend to be pretty structured in the way I approach things. And 25 years ago, I began ministry after attending seminary, and the thing that I've been fighting over the years, or have been trying to do over the years, is to get people who profess to be Christians to begin understanding what it means to follow Jesus, and what it means to confess Jesus as Lord. A lot of people out there, huge numbers, I guess, through mass evangelism, have made or repeated the sinner's prayer. But the Romans 10 goes further than that. It says, if you confess Jesus as Lord, which means King Jesus, Priest Jesus, Friend Jesus, all these issues that we seem to be able to step aside from, because in America we've done fairly well without too much divine intervention, let's say.
Wow, amazing. Who do you think this book is for? Who's your intended audience for this book?
Well, we're in a situation now where something like 7,000 churches a year are closing. And they expect that number to double because, for one thing, we're moving away from having to depend on real estate to get the message out or to sell the product. So the churches have been a long time catching on to this, and they haven't gotten there yet. But in what question did you ask me? I lost track of.
Oh yeah, no, I was just asking, who the audience would be.
Oh yeah, so
like who would read
so
this?
What has happened is because I used to ask it this way. Have you had a lot of altar calls over the years? have you discipled these people? And I felt that there were too many saved and not enough discipled. And in the course of time, people begin to get serious guilty consciences over the style of their lives, have a very difficult time moving from sin that continues to crop up and continues to plague them, and they kind of get, well, let's say they get nudged out the back door of the average church. And so there's a huge quantity of people out there who have had a Christian experience at some time during their lives. I ran into this in prison. A lot of the inmates there, or we don't use that word inmates, it's not politically correct to do that. But prisoners, people who are incarcerated, have come up through evangelical backgrounds, and they drag a lot of that legalism and that cheap grace into the prison, and it makes it very difficult to have a committed life there as well as on the outside. So my feeling is that there are an awful lot of people who have been touched by the hand of the Lord, but somehow in the course of events are looking for a way back to home, which I refer to as the kingdom of God, of which we are citizens. And I make that very clear. I talk about the present dynamic victorious kingdom of the living God. It's not a future hope, it's a present reality in the life of the Christian.
Amazing. When it comes to application, obviously you want people to apply the message of your book. What would you hope to see somebody do if they were applying this? Where would you like to see the church go, and then believers go, and even non-believers go?
Yeah, I wrote this book from the perspective of being a sinner saved by grace. And so, as a pastor, admitting that he or she struggles with sin ought to be an encouragement to people out there who have not found a welcome within the church community because their lives don't measure up, maybe. So all through this book, I talk to people who have gone through the experience of getting beaten up, not only by the church, but by life out there, and needing the fellowship of legitimate believers, which I would call people who are encouraging each other, not only encouraging, but also confessing their sins to one another. And there's not much of that going on, as you know.
Right. Well, this is a really important book, and Stan, I appreciate you taking the time. And for everybody else, Finding Our Way Home is available, and I think it's just really an impactful book that really will change the way we view church and people coming to the kingdom. So thank you, Stan, for being with us today.
Thank you, Tim, for inviting me.